Uh, so Brandon, I gotta ask a question, and this is going to kind of sound really kind of like condescending a bit, but you'll know exactly where I'm coming from. Joe Burrow's been getting hit like crazy over these last several weeks. I say really this whole season. We thought that this was going to be the first time that Joe was going to have a good offensive line compared to what he's
Mm.
had in the past. But it just turns out that he just doesn't. And the interior guard play has just been like in the toilet once again. When is it going to be a point to where Joe Burrow is going to have a good offensive line in front of him?
Mm. That's $1 million question, huh? Um, listen, Karras and Kappa, I said they helped us secure a little bit more than we had before they got there. But Volson has not been the answer. He hasn't quite made that leap up that we thought, more of a regression at some points. Kappa and Karras now both are starting to show some wear and tear, a little long in the tooth.
And I feel
Well,
like,
we're gonna have to
but
start putting some of those draft picks that we've been talking about in 3, 4 rounds, like 2, 3, 4, and 5,
yeah.
are gonna have to get pushed into that offensive line, I think, to get us where we really need to be.
Yeah, and quite frankly, Devin Cochran, he had a rough outing in his first snap, but he actually kind of like came on a little bit to make me feel like that. Okay, he's a capable backup, But at the end of the day, I still don't want a Walmart worker out there playing left tackle. So
Yeah.
it just still feels like that we're back in square one to where it seems like Bobby Hart is playing on his O line again. And I'm sorry, but I thought I was done hearing bad names. I'm sorry that we still got tomato cans, on the O line. And I feel like that maybe this time, with all the investments that we poured into this offensive line, it's got to be the coaching, man. We've said this so many different times. I'm ready to point the finger directly there.
I mean, that would obviously help. But one thing for sure, and this has been brought up on this show multiple times, you've got to protect your best assets, man.
Yeah, you have
And that's
to.
the easy way to do it with Burrow, man. Stop getting this man chased around like, like he robbed somebody.
Yeah, for
It, it,
sure.
I don't recall where he could take a 5-step drop and normally scan the field, or a 3-step out of a shotgun. It just doesn't happen, man. He just doesn't get that opportunity to look around hardly at all.
Overcoming a bad offensive line has been Joe Burrow's primary superpower since he's entered the league, and that's insane. Because I'll tell you one thing: if you watch the Chicago Bears on Monday night, that online stinks.
Oh,
Man, Caleb Williams keeps getting bludgeoned, and people were telling me that he's 10 times more athletic than Joe Burrow. You know what I mean? Like he has like this crazy Patrick Mahomes-esque kind of play style to his game. But
yeah,
I
he doesn't
watched
have
him.
the awareness yet, for sure.
He hasn't developed that as that avenue to his tool belt yet in the mental part of his game, but he does have the athleticism, so to speak. But I watch him behind that O line, and don't get me wrong, he's still playing some awful football here and there. He has his rookie moments, but man, they cannot block for him whatsoever. And it really just gives me shades of, damn, I remember when Joe Burrow went through this his rookie year, and man, he overcame a lot. He overcame a lot more, and it just makes me think like that's just not normal. So he's developed that as a superpower to his game since he's been in the NFL, man. And I'm still happy to have a guy like Joe Burrow, but man, we need him to get some protection finally once for all.
Hey, man, it's like my third or fourth podcast in a row. Which show are we on? Which show is this one?
This is
Oh,
running through the jungle.
All right, welcome back to Running Through the Jungle for the doubleheader this Wednesday. I'm your host, Brandon Herriott, with your host, Tim Lyon and Justin Lacey. We just got done doing our roaring reactions, talking about what happened in Tennessee. It was the worst crime since uh, the 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 goalpost robbery, I believe. Um, I don't know, man. We're going into the game here against the Browns. And the Browns are in a little bit of turmoil as well. DTR now is the starter. We've pulled
Hmm.
Jameis.
Yeah.
Um, let's start there, man. What are your thoughts and feelings about that, Tim? DTR help or hurt the situation here for the Browns as far as the Bengals are concerned?
Honestly, doesn't matter. They're 3-11. And it's not like if they win out. As of right now, if I was the Cleveland Browns, I would just keep playing football, regardless of the, just regardless of the situation or the outcome. I would just keep playing football and seeing who do you have later on down the road, that's going to play, next season. Let these younger guys get in and play football. DTR, I'm not impressed with him. I haven't been impressed with him. He was a good college quarterback. But I know last time that we played the Browns, DTR, after, he came in for Deshaun Watson after he got hurt, and the Bengals kicked his butt. We kicked his butt, and then they brought in Jameson after that.
Hmm.
So, DTR, it all depends on how our defense is going to come out there and play football on Sunday. Are we going to go out there and cause turnovers and get sacks? I have a feeling that this could be a 2-sack game for Trey Hendrickson, to be honest with you,
Ooh, okay,
because
okay, okay.
well, DTR, he likes to scramble, and he likes to, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He honestly doesn't know. Yeah, to me, that's how I see him as. And I'm not
Yeah.
being a biased Bengals fan, but DTR is just not. He's not an NFL caliber quarterback, and it might just be the system that they're in. So
I don't
in
know,
my
man. I think they've been coached up pretty well in my mind.
yeah, but Nick Chubb hasn't been. Ever since Nick Chubb came back from that
He's
knee
out
injury and
now.
the surgery, he hasn't been. He hasn't been the best, and then now he's out with his broken ankle. So
Yeah, it's
is
Ford,
Ford?
right?
Is Ford going to step up and you know carry that workload or not? I don't know. There's a lot of questions.
I listen. DTR, I think he showed glimpses and gave some hope in some preseason games. We saw him do really good in some mop up work. But when he's been in there as a starter, been in there when he's had to start games or had to play in meaningful games, he's not played well. Justin, what do you think? Do you think maybe DTR now with a chance to sit and learn some more? Are you concerned about what he's going to do, or do you think maybe this helps the Bengals?
I mean, it does obviously help the Bengals just because, they have played well against them the last time they saw them. But at the end of the day, that was probably an unprepared version of DTR because they were still starting Deshaun Watson when we saw him up there in Cleveland. I do worry a little bit about the Bengals being consistent on pressure when it comes to mobile quarterbacks. And DTR, he's fairly mobile. And Kevin Stefanski's a good coach. I'm sure he's going to drop a good game script for him to be like, all right, let's kind of take less of the pressure off of you. And so that way you're not throwing the ball as much. You got a great, reliable running back in Jerome Ford. I like Nick Chubb. Obviously, he's on path to be having like somewhat of a kind of a future Hall of Fame career during his trajectory if he continues on it. I know, albeit he had a couple of injuries, since last year. Now, unfortunately, he's out for the year this year. But Jerome Ford is a capable running back, and they still have a crafty running game plan. And I think that they'll utilize him more to sort of ease the load on DTR, so the way he's not doing all this Watson like Houdini magic and stuff where he's not that guy. He's also not Lamar Jackson back there, and he can be erratic with his throws, but I also think that he just didn't have the reps and timing in practice when he was thrusted into that game last time we saw him. So it could be very helpful and beneficial to the Bengals, obviously, in that realm of respect. But I think that for the move from them benching Jameis Winston and going with DTR, it's just by simple fact of, dude, while we appreciate Jameis Winston's energy, I think that the energy is kind of like ran its course a little bit and that his turnovers is kind of like stayed put and his play hasn't really gotten better. But I also think that it could be an impatient factor with them as well too, that they got to see a little bit more of what they have before they make their future decisions on the quarterback moving forward, because they know they got to come off this Deshaun Watson contract at some point. And they need to see what they have within the quarterback room. You already know what you have with Jameis. He's not somebody you can build your team around. DTR, you guys already mentioned it. I don't think that he's a starting quarterback caliber type of guy. He's a guy that can play solid as a backup to an extent. He did good in some preseason action that gave Browns fans some hope that, hey, maybe we have something here. But it's just kind of been more of the same ritual as always, where it's like, it's just not there. So that's what I think overall regarding DTR starting. I don't think that it should phase the Bengals one bit, because 1 minute it can be a good thing for them, and the next minute the Bengals can let the foot off the gas, and the next thing you know, DTR is throwing for 300 yards and maybe running for 60 and getting a few tutties on his head.
Well, I feel like, then this is me segueing and taking the opportunities that the Bengals have first. I'm going to go first this time. Might be
let's
the
do
first
it.
for the
Let's
season.
go.
I think DTR playing is an opportunity for the Bengals, and it's twofold. Without a healthy Nick Chubb out there, he won't be out there. With Ford going, and some of the things that I've seen out of our defensive line, that I've been a little bit. I don't know if I've been impressed, but I've got a little bit better feels about our defensive line and our running defense over the past 4 or 5 weeks. I think that this is a situation where maybe we see some blitzes, some scheme come up from Lou Anarumo. We see some unusual coverages. We see a couple good rushes out there. Can we get Trey Hendrickson back to the pocket again? Can we get him off his spot, making inconsistent throws on the run maybe? I think this is an opportunity for the Bengals. I think DTR is the biggest opportunity I think we have, is get him off his spot, pressure him, and make him beat you, as where I think we're at. Tim, what's your biggest opportunity for the Bengals against the Browns in Cincinnati this weekend?
DTR, he's going out there. They've game plan for him this week. Judy's been playing, he's been getting every pass thrown to him from Winston. He's been playing decent football. Ford's coming in there. He's going to be the number one running back. But I still don't think that their left tackle can handle Trey Hendrickson. And I can't remember. If I remember correctly, didn't Trey Hendrickson in our last meeting have 2 sacks against the Browns?
I know he had 1. I couldn't necessarily remember if he had 2, but he did outplay Myles Garrett in that game. I think he had 2 probably.
I believe he did.
One against Deshaun, and maybe one against DTR, if I'm not mistaken. When Jameis came into the game, nobody touched him for some reason. But
Brandon said he had 2. So, I'm going. I know I'm basing it off of that, but also though,
even Sam Hubbard had 1 in that game.
Yeah, and I believe we had. Didn't we have like 1 or 2 picks that? I think we had 1 or 2 picks that game.
Sam Hubbard had a pick too.
Yeah,
Gino still had a pick.
Yeah, so and I'm not saying it's going to be we're repeating history here, and I'm not going to be the biased Bengals fan here, but I believe I think our defense can, if they continue on this roll, we've played pretty good. I'm not going to say the best, but we've played pretty good. But if they keep on trending up, I think we're going to be able to control their offense and keep their run game at bay. I'm going to say under 100 yards rushing. That's what I'm going to say at bay. But I think that's our biggest opportunity is our defense actually taking advantage against their offense, and of course our offense against their defense. I'm what, that's a concern. So I won't jump into that, but I would say our defense against their offense. Yeah. I don't want to jump ahead and have Brandon yell at me.
Justin, what's your biggest opportunity for the Bengals?
Look, man, it's the 3rd week in a row. You're paying the bad offense on paper. This should be the perfect opportunity for the defense to round in the form and actually get takeaways like they did the last couple of weeks. Well, mainly just last week. And look like an actual capable defense.
They
because we
did.
know when
They got enough
when
turnovers for 2 weeks last week. Don't go. Keep going.
True, but at the end of the day, they got to be consistent, and this is the opportunity for them to show that they're consistent against playing a third week in a row where you're playing a bad offense on paper with now DTR starting at quarterback. I was more concerned if they would have kept Jameis Winston in the starting lineup because I know that he can attack the ball in the air. When he went against the Denver Broncos, he had 497 yards of off, like just passing yards alone. And I was very concerned if he was going to be the starting quarterback coming into Cincinnati this upcoming Sunday. But you got DTR. Now, he could pose some of the same threats, but he hasn't shown that yet in this two belt in this game. And it's the opportunity for the Bengals to, for the third week in a row, be a consistent average off defense that can actually stop bad offense at the very least. We already know this defense can't stop good quarterbacks and good offense, but what the least you can do is stop the bad ones. And this is your perfect opportunity. Not even going to go into the numbers. The weapons are really not all that scary to me. I know Jerry Judy's come into, form, but again, with the quarterback change, I don't even know if time is going to be right with them. I like David and Njoku as the tight end, but again, with DTR coming into the game in the picture here, I don't know if he's going to establish the same weaponry rapport with him like Jameis has done. So ultimately, the only concern probably could be is their running back game. But at the end of the day, if the Bengals bow up their defensive line and actually make tackles, they have an opportunity to stop their running game before he can ever even get started. So that's basically it for me personally.
All right. Tim, you were talking about concerns. I'll let you go on. What's the biggest concern you got in this matchup? The Bengals taking on the Browns at Paycor Stadium at 1:00.
Well, my number one, my first concern is the Cincinnati Bengals can't seem to win at home. I don't know what's up with that, but I think we've won one game at home.
Yeah, against the Raiders,
Beat the
and
Raiders.
and the losses ever since.
Yeah, so we seem to can't. That's one of my concerns. Is Joe Burrow going to be able to step up and throw for 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns? Is Chase Brown going to be able to, take that workload and do what he does? Is Jamar Chase and all those guys? Our last meeting, Joe Burrow was sacked 3 times. He only threw for 181 yards. We only had I don't know, 58 yards rushing. Joe Burrow was kept at bay by the Cleveland defense. Yeah, he was sacked 3 times. Myles Garrett's not playing like Myles Garrett usually does this year. Like I've speculated before, and I'm going to speculate again. I don't think Myles Garrett is 100% healthy. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what any reports say. Myles Garrett's not Myles Garrett. And I don't know if it has to do with the Cleveland Browns organization, or maybe he's hurt, like I said. But the secondary, they play us pretty well. Their defense plays us pretty well. So that I'm not going to be long-winded about it, but I think their defense is going to be our concern against our offense because they do play pretty damn well against the Bengals.
All right, Justin, what is your biggest concern against this matchup with the Browns?
I got 2 concerns. It is going to be Myles Garrett if we got Devin Cochran playing left tackle, because I don't care how injured Myles Garrett has been this year. The dude's still hard to block. And you got Devin Cochran out there, even if you would have had Cody Ford coming back from injury. I still don't trust him against Myles Garrett. I'm sorry. Again, I know also what to monitor is Myles Garrett. He had like a neck injury or whatnot, but I think he is due to play. But also my other concern is Denzel Ward, man. He plays really good against these Bengals receivers. And Jamar Chase has had a tough time against him, even though I know that he had Jamar has also had his name, like had some moments against him as well too. But Denzel Ward is one hell of a corner. But I think that the absence of Greg Newsome is going to probably hurt them a little bit as well too, because he is hurt, I believe, and not going to be available. I think he's actually gone for the rest of the season. So it's going to be Martin Emerson, who has been struggling like crazy this year, and then Denzel Ward as their 2 primary corners. We already know what Denzel's history when it comes to concussion, with having concussions and stuff, and that is a concern. But it still doesn't stop that this dude knows how to lock up anybody when the ball is thrown his way. He just plays the ball so perfectly well. And I thought that the best matchup opportunity would have been T. Higgins on Denzel Ward, but he has proved to me in the last matchup that, man, I don't care if you 6'8", I can still take that ball away from you or knock it to the ground, and you're not going to moss me. And that's impressive, man, as a corner. And I wish kind of like we had that a little bit on our defense. But Those are the only two guys that I'm really truly concerned with. The speed of their defense. I do like their safeties with Grant Delpit and Juan Thornhill. They've kind of rounded nicely over the course of the season. I do think that their linebackers, while they are missing the speed with Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, I'm not quite really sold the rest of the unit that they got there, even though the linebackers not really how they built the teeth of their defense, but they still can get after the passer with the interior too. I think Michael Hall, they got their draft pick from Ohio State, does a really good job. I think that he's coming in, going to be doing just fine as pairing him up with Myles Garrett. They do not have Zadarius Smith anymore, and quite frankly, I don't really think they really need him, even though they do need somebody else to rush a little bit more of the passer. But again, if Myles Garrett is going against Cody Ford or Devin Cochran, again, as much as I want to be hopeful and believe that we should be able to man him up and chip him with the tight end and whatnot, I just don't feel like that the opportunity is there, and it does lie more into the concern category for me. And I think that the Bengals need to be prepared that Joe Burrow's got to get the ball out a little bit quicker or establish a run game. Establish the run game with
Hey.
Chase Brown. That's the name of the game, man, to beat the rush.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they need to keep them off balance and not just let these guys tee off. I also am concerned about the rush from the Cleveland Browns. I don't, Austin Zart said his one concern is with each and every week is with the defense being able to stop somebody. Yeah, I've kind of just come to the realization we're not going to. So it's a bend, don't break. Hey, we're going to give up 20 plus points, and can we outscore them? So I always look at my concern as like, all right, I know I got to score 30. What could stop me from doing that? That's kind of where I'm at with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that does it for our opportunities, our concerns. We're going to go into our offensive, defensive game balls and our score predictions. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. If you are rocking with us out here, whether it's anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, Pod, any of those places, or you're listening to us on YouTube, whatever it is, please like, subscribe, hit that thumbs up, hit that bell. 5-star reviews help us out immensely. And always remember to share. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And welcome back to Runnin Thru the Jungle. Again, we have the whole crew. I'm Brandon Herriott here with Justin Lacey and Tim Lyons. Fellas, opportunities and concerns. A little scouting report has been done. Let's talk about offensive game balls. Tim Lyons, who are you? What do you mean? You want Justin to do it? Okay. We've got Heather Lyons making too much noise. So we're going to go to Justin Lacey. Justin, who's your offensive game ball going to go to?
Awesome. My offensive game ball, I'm going to ride the hot hand on the ground. I'm going to actually go with Chase Brown. I think that he is the perfect opportunity that I could have mentioned this as well, too, that he can actually take over this game. It was much earlier in the season in week 6 or week 7 that we played the Browns, and we finally got that monkey off our back of winning in Cleveland. But Chase Brown, it didn't really have much to do with him because we didn't really run the ball that much with him. And I feel like Zach Moss was still there. And even though he might have been, no, I think he was still there. I think that this is an opportunity where you can actually like put a statement claim on the ground, and we can run the ball on these guys and not necessarily try to play to their strength and just throwing the ball and having this crazy aerial attack offense. Even though I know Joe Burrow can win that way when he did play the Browns last time, and he threw a touchdown, one to each Jamar and T. Higgins. But Chase Brown can actually get involved too. They haven't seen Chase Brown like that. So this is a perfect opportunity for him to kind of keep the hot hand going. I feel like that he's so close on busting a long one into the end zone. And I think that whether if it comes via a screen pass or just come through just handing off just a regular standard run play and I formation, whatever the case it may be, I think it's coming. And I think this can be the game where he can do it. So I'm going to go with him as my offensive game ball as the guy that's going to get that.
All right, we got the quad father, Dennis Pavlik, rocking with us. That means that PYB is probably over. Welcome, Mr. Quad Father. I thought I was dodging a bullet there, Justin, because Tim had to put it on pause there for a second, had some extracurriculars going on in the background, and then you got to swing over. I was worried that he was going to take Chase Brown because I was going to take Chase Brown, and then you took Chase Brown, And now I got a feeling all three of us are going to take Chase Brown. I'm still going to take him before Tim has that. I think he's lying to me. I think he's lying to me. He wants to go next so he can snipe him. I'm going to take Chase Brown, and I think twofold. One, he a little more rushes against the Titans. I think we need to get the rushing game going a little bit to keep them off balance, like you said. But I think he only had 3 catches for 16 yards in this past one, even though one of them was a touchdown. I like him to get 6 or 7 catches against this team. I think that's a good matchup for him sneaking out of the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. I think they pay a little more attention. Newsom's out, like you said, pay a little more attention than normal to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and therefore I think you see him coming underneath and catching a few, maybe even a wheel route, maybe even a maybe that big play is a big pass. I don't know. I like him catching some passes here as well as running the ball. So I'm taking Jamar Chase. I think he has 140 total yards and 2 tutties.
Awesome.
I'm not saying that because I'm a homer and I need him on my fantasy league. Tim, what you got?
All right.
Buddy?
So I'm not going with Chase Brown. I'm actually not. I don't. As much as I like both of your guys' takes on Chase Brown, and I hope he does what you guys are saying that he does, but the last time that defensive line actually held our run game pretty damn good. If I remember looking at the stats, Chase Brown had 44 rushing yards. But don't forget they have Tomlinson up there. They have Myles Garrett. So I hope you guys are right, but I'm not going that direction. My direction is I'm actually going to go with. I think they're going to be too busy bracketing Chase Brown or Jamar. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, these chases. Jamar. I think they're going to be too busy worrying about what Jamar Chase is doing. And T. Higgins. And so let's not forget. So T. Higgins, he was injured those first couple weeks of the season. Came back, and ever since he's been back, he's been kind of oiled up, ready to go. He's ready to go. So no Diddy.
Oh my god!
So,
how much? Hey, how much oil are we talking about, Tim? Is it like 1,000 bottles of baby oil?
I think P. Diddy's got that on wrap, so I don't think there's that much left in the market. But anyways, besides the point, I think this is T. Higgins' game. He's going to have 100 receiving yards and a touchdown. So he's going to get my offensive game ball. I think this is his opportunity to take advantage of the Cleveland Browns. As long as we can provide Joe Burrow with protection and give him enough time to throw the ball, there's a chance that T. Higgins is gonna be my offensive game ball next week as well.
All right, Justin, defensive game ball. What's your prediction?
Man, I so badly want this to be another Trey Hendrickson dominating performance, but I'm not going to go that direction. You know what? I think that I'm going to stick with somebody in the secondary. I know they've struggled all season long, and I'm not going to be prisoner of the moment based off of what I saw last week against the Titans. But I do think this is a perfect opportunity for, more turnovers to be created in this game. I know his play has been much maligned for much of the season. He's gotten benched a couple of times already, and he's had to come back in. But I'm going to go with Cam Taylor-Britt as my defensive prediction to get the game ball. I think that he's due up for just kind of rebounding his play. Again, you're going against another bad offense. And that doesn't mean that we need to kind of like keep marrying the idea that you're going to be our future cornerback one in the future moving forward. No, this position still needs to be upgraded, but we're not here to talk position upgrades right now in the offseason talk. This is simply about purely what we think of what we're going to happen in this game. DTR, I don't know how he's going to fare against this opportunistic defense that we're now seeing against bad offenses. And I think that Cam Taylor-Britt is one to capitalize on that opportunity more than most among everybody else in the secondary. So I'm going to go with him.
Yo, Austin's Art says our defense is probably wearing baby oil since they can't hardly tackle. Yo, man.
Oh, man. The Diddy conversations are just crazy right now.
Yeah. Wow. Listen, in our first matchup with the Browns, he was very close to making a couple plays. Seemed like he was a step slow. It was the first time that's this season that I remember, specifically remember him blitzing a couple extra times, and start looking at what I was saying about DTR and about getting him off his spot, disguising some defenses, sending some guys. I gonna say Mike Hilton. Second week in a row, he has a little bit better week. Was he a little bit banged up earlier in the year?
Yeah.
Quite possibly, but he did look a little bit more like himself last week. He almost got to make some plays against the Browns last week or last matchup. I think pass batted down. Don't know if we get a pick, and I'm going to call a sack here. I think he gets a sack. So I think he has several tackles, maybe a TFL and a sack. So I'm going to take Mike Hilton as my defensive game ball prediction. Tim, who you got?
I'm going with Bobby Boucher. I'm sorry, that's wrong show here.
I'd put him in at linebacker right now.
I would too, but I'm gonna go with we got that defensive end guy. What's his name? Trey Hendrickson. I'm gonna go with Trey Hendrickson. 2 sacks, forced fumble, and they actually give him credit for the dang sack this time with the forced fumble. Trey Hendrickson has just proven to be the defense. He's ongoing. Just I know I've repeated this every single show. Trey Hendrickson. I love Trey Hendrickson. I loved him when he was with the Saints. He's been a great addition to the Bengals. And I believe that this is going to be a game that he takes a little bit further step in the sack leaders.
All right, Justin, what's your score prediction?
All right, so I do believe that the Bengals do win this one. I think that Joe Burrow finally gets the season sweep for the Browns for the first time in his career, believe it or not. I think that the Bengals do win this game somewhat convincingly, although we're still going to be having the same questions and concerns like we have all year long. I think that the Bengals do put up 30 points in this game. They're at home. I think that they're striping out the jungle as what we've been asked. The public has been asked. The organization outcry for that.
It's going to be cold, but no rain or snow.
It's going to be cold, and I don't know how effective it's going to be because you are going to have Browns infiltrate our stadium just like the Steelers do, and you're going to see a lot of orange just like scattered out throughout. That's going to kind of like give it this weird look, whatever. I don't care. Just win the damn game if you're the Bengals. I'm going to predict the Bengals to win this game 33-14. Obviously, I don't feel comfortable picking a blowout like that, but I think it's more so that it will remain somewhat decently close-ish to an extent, and then they'll start to pull away towards the end and then notch a couple of field goals through the end and make it kind of more or less out of reach, and that the Browns will probably try to chase after garbage time and stuff. That's what I think may happen, but I think the Bengals understand that their sense of urgency has an all-time high this year, and that if they still have a chance to make the postseason at that 5% mark, they cannot lose any more games, and they especially cannot lose this one. So that's where I'm going to go with my score prediction.
Hey, I don't think the way that Joe Burrow's reacting and the things that he's saying, whatever, I don't think it falls on deaf ears. I really don't, man. I think this is something I think he should have, when he pulled the coaches in and said something quietly in a hallway after that first, Ravens game, was it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Chiefs game, whatever. I forget which one it was. Yeah.
It wasn't Chiefs, but I think he should have already said something to the team then, or said something in front of the team, or so whatever. Mm-hmm. What has he said behind closed doors? I don't know, but it doesn't seem like that's kind of the MO. I like where we're at with this right now, and I think the Bengals really get their first fairly comfortable win of the season since the Raiders. I'm going to go 37-23. I give I'm kind of like what Dennis Pavlak here is saying, 34-16 Bengals, but I think that you get kind of a late touchdown from the Browns in trash garbage time. 37-23, man. I'm not confident enough to take that. If you listen to Hater earlier, I did. I was confident enough to take the over.
To be fair, The Bengals would have blown out the Browns had they not switched a quarterback a third time the first time we played them. When they had set DTR and put in Jameis Winston, I don't know if he got hurt or he was just benched because he was just bad. But it was just when Winston came in, they finally looked like a competent offense against our bad defense, and then that's when it made the score look a little closer than we would have liked. And then it came down to that onside kick and all that stuff. Otherwise, if that didn't really happen, the Bengals were going to that was going to be a comfortable win.
But we only scored 21. I don't like that.
Yeah.
All right,
same.
Tim, what's your predictions?
Well, this isn't week 7. This isn't week 6 where we're only scoring, 21 points, 24 points. This is week 16.
Full throttle.
And, Joe Burrow and the Bengals have been scoring 30-plus points a game. We're playing against another bad team. Our bad team versus their bad team. I don't care. I know they're a little bit badder. They're a little bit worse because they're 3-11. My actually prediction was 37-17, but I think Brandon's right. I think we, in the end, give them garbage time. I'm going to guess in the garbage time they're going to bring Jameis Winston in to play if he's not injured, but it showed that he was a full practice today. I say they ended up bringing him in the last, quarter, whatever, and we win 37-27 is what I'm going to say the final score is. I'm hoping that they keep going on this ride. Joe's putting up points. The defense is putting up points. I don't care who the hell puts up the points, but I think we're going to score over 30 points this game and seal the deal, and we get a 2-0 sweep on the Browns at least. At least we beat somebody twice.
I like it. Justin, want to put a bow on this? What are your closing comments for this evening?
You know what? I'm not going to put too much stock in the playoff prediction and probability and whatnot, because at the end of the day, my story still rings true about even if they finish the season 9-8, and if they somehow get in the dance and go 1 and done, I'm still not convinced that the long-term success of this team and this coaching staff that still needs to be put up in question for me personally. But at the end of the day, just take it one game at a time. Chances are, the ball's not going to bounce your way, but it can get interesting down the stretch. The Thursday night game is going to be monumental for Bengals fans. You're going to probably have to be a Chargers fan if you're the Bengals looking at the Broncos and Chargers coming up on this Thursday night game. If the Broncos lose that game, their very next game is on the road here at Cincinnati. If they lose that game, then it's on, and then it's all boiling down to the Week 18 game, our game against the Steelers, their game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And do not think for 1 second that the Chiefs is going to have that number 1 seed locked up and wrapped up, because they got the Houston Texans on deck. They've been winning ugly all year. They could lose that game. And then the following week after that, on Christmas Day, during that stretch, they could lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers too. And then next thing you know, they probably have to play their starters in order to beat Denver. And quite frankly, that may put them at the number 2 seed if Buffalo wins out. So the hope still remains alive for the playoff opportunities and prediction for the Bengals, probability for the Bengals. It's good to kind of stay engaged and entertained throughout the stretch, but at the end of the day, do not let this cloud your judgment that long-term success of the overview of the team just still has to be monitored, and be reminded that even if the Bengals do make it to the playoffs, Zach Taylor and company and the rest of his coaching staff have a long way to go to convince us that they should be able to remain with their jobs, even though we kind of already somewhat think that they might be back. But don't let the dead cat bounce for you. People can look good for a few weeks and stuff, but at the end of the day, this team is still not good when it comes to great teams that they go against. And I'm not saying that I'm just trying to say, like, enjoy the entertainment for the next few weeks, but at the end of the day, just still remember that this where our expectations were, and then just go with that.
All right, Tim, closing thoughts for you, my friend.
Yeah, we're Cincinnati Bengals fans. It's our entertainment on Sundays, on Thursdays, on Monday Night Football. This week, or is it this weekend or next weekend? It's a Saturday game. Next weekend's a Saturday game, right? I believe the Bengals play it on.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though they're, they always say, oh, you're saying there's a chance. There is a chance. There's always a chance. We have to have the Chargers beat the Broncos. There's a lot of things that need to happen. Would it be nice for the Bengals to go 9-8? I just want to see them go 9-8, even if they make the playoffs or not. I just want to see them go 9-8,
right.
just so we're not 8-9 or 7-10. I just want to see the Cincinnati Bengals, have a successful winning season. I know these Steelers fans in here, the quad father, we always hear, Mike Tomlin's won 17 seasons in a row. He's had a winning season for 17 seasons in a row. 18 seasons in a row. I don't give a shit. Excuse my French again. But I would like to see us finish out 9-8. And there's always that hope. There's that glimmer. It's like waking up on Christmas morning as a kid, and we're hoping that mom and dad bought us a brand new bike or whatever. There's that glimmer in my eye that I hope the Bengals finish off the season good and make the playoffs, and just shimmy their way in the playoffs and upset these teams that everybody's been riding the hype train on, like the Steelers, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, all those guys. I would love to see, the last time that we saw a bad team make a Super Bowl was the 9-7 New York Giants.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah, they won a division that year and went on a historic run. Yeah.
Right. So you know what? So you say there's a chance. Who dey?
Good God. All right. This is not where I was going with my closing arguments, but because of my colleagues, I will. I'm not going to talk about the playoffs because as this team sits and is structured, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Does that mean they can't get there? No. Does that mean they can't win if they were to get there? No. You know why? Because they got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. And if you have those three guys, you always have a chance. My biggest hope is end this season on as high a note as you can. If you can win out, great. If you can't, great. Whatever it is, I want those three to be healthy the rest of the season and to play well the rest of the season and remember what that feeling feels like. And maybe, just maybe, we can re-sign those guys back to contracts, because that would be a bigger win than getting to the playoffs for me. That's all. That's all I'm going to say with that. And with that, I want to thank you guys all for rocking with us as always. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, 5-star review. We appreciate you guys. Check us out next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, 8:05 Eastern time as we are running through the jungle.